Right, this should be live. I hope it is working because I've not really used this software before, but whatever. And I'll be able to see my Twitch chat in two places. So yeah, I'll just... Hello once again, Sam. And anyone else that's here. Of course my phone hasn't picked up the Twitch chat, but hey. Hello once again. So yeah, can you see the screen clearly? Like, is it readable? I am streaming. You miss my face. I can make it bigger. It looks really bad blown up like that. But yeah, can you like see the stuff properly? I'm streaming at 1080p now, so that text will be clearer on this since my monitor's 1080p. So yeah, this is basically my stuff on like OBS stuff. So yeah. So I think what I'll do first, I'll go in the settings and we'll just like look at some of these and see how like some of the settings I would recommend using. This is regular OBS rather than anything like Streamlabs OBS, just because this is what I'm used to. Although I am no let's lock that. How do I lock it in Streamlabs OBS? There's no option to lock it. Oh no, there is. There we go. Yeah. Hey Rin. Yeah, I mean, this is OBS Studio I'm using here, mainly because I'm used to it, because I've been using OBS since before OBS Studio existed, back on classic OBS. But to do this stream, so that we can see the OBS screen clearly, I am using Streamlabs OBS, so we can see the OBS screen clearly. So yeah, this is what I use. It's personally what I'd recommend, but obviously you can use something like Streamlabs OBS. Is it kind of the same with Streamlabs? A lot of this stuff will apply to Streamlabs OBS because Streamlabs OBS is built off of regular OBS, but I would, in general, personally recommend recommend regular OBS just because I'm more used to it and it has plugin support. But yeah, a lot of this stuff will apply if you decide to use Streamlabs OBS. But obviously, I know Rin, you have chat commands that use Stream Elements, so obviously. Stream Elements, you can use Stream Elements stuff in Streamlabs OBS, but obviously Streamlabs OBS is geared towards using Streamlabs' alerts. But yeah, so first off, I'll go through the settings menu since some of this, obviously, I mean, some of it's like use Studio because ease. It's also because it's what I told you to use, I think. But yeah, so on the main settings menu, I mean, a lot of this is like fairly self-explanatory, but if you are like me and Ben, and you like to keep your like streams and like upload them somewhere else like YouTube or edit them, then you'll want to check the box saying automatically record when streaming, since this is not ticked by default. But if you automatically record when streaming, then it'll record exactly what you're streaming, so you can upload it somewhere else or edit it or whatever. A lot of this stuff is like enabled by default and it's like quite obvious what it is, like sort of basically normal stuff. You disable that due to storage, which is fair enough. Video files do take up a lot of storage. But yeah, this is obviously where you want, like when you go to here on an OBS thing, like software that isn't set up, this is where you'll log into Twitch. You can set your server manually. I'm lazy and I set it to auto. And you can have Twitch chat add-ons, that's just for like the Twitch chat as it appears like here. So it's a fairly, I mean, you used to have to use a stream key for this, but nowadays since you can log into Twitch, it's a lot easier than it used to be. Now output, this is where a lot of the this is where like this is one of the most important sort of things. By default it is set to simple output mode. You want ideally, if you want more control, I would recommend setting it to advanced. Now the encoder is basically whether you're using your CPU or GPU to encode the video. Generally speaking, GPU encoding will often perform a bit quicker for streaming, but CPU encoding is technically higher quality. For me, I use the GPU one because I use the GPU one, which for me is QuickSync, because laptop, even though it does have a little dedicated NVIDIA card, it also has the integrated graphics card from the Intel processor, and that's what QuickSync is. If you have like a proper PC and like a proper NVIDIA card, then your hardware encoder is going to be NVENC, and AMD I think has one, but you might have to like go and download it as a plugin or something. But by default it is set to X264, which is the software, the CPU encoder. I prefer to use this one because most games, if I'm running off PC, I do run from... Yours might let you use QuickSync, because that is part of the integrated graphics. But yeah, as to which performs better, on my laptop it tends to perform better when I use QuickSync, so it's not really using the CPU cycles, it's using a little dedicated bit of the GPU, or of the CPU, like of the integrated graphics on the CPU. So it's like designed for that task, and it's not using the CPU bits that are running games. And when I'm running games, they are running on the graphics side, they're running on the NVIDIA part. So, I mean, if you're doing console streams, like Ben and Joe mostly do, it doesn't matter too much which you use as long as it's running smooth. But it's generally a kind of thing where if you have multiple options here on the encoder, experiment with both to see if to see which one's better. Now, I don't quite know what enforced streaming service encoder settings does, but I would keep that ticked, because it just means it's good. Now this bit here, this is going to differ depending on which encoder you're using. So say on QuickSync, it has some target usage things here. It is, I think, by default set to balanced and high. These bits I don't really know, so if you keep them default. And bitrate is your main one. Bitrate, you're gonna basically, obviously the higher the bitrate is, the higher quality, but it does take more internet like bandwidth to stream at a higher bitrate. So if you're getting lag on the stream itself, then you need to lower the bitrate a bit so that the streaming service can so that sort of your internet can sort of handle it. Especially if you're streaming over Wi-Fi, which I do. Now 6,000 is actually kilobits a second is a fairly high. I think 6,000 is the highest that Twitch properly lets you stream at anyway. I think it's either 6,000 or 8,000. But obviously that's the kind of thing that depends on your internet mainly, as to how high you can push that. I wouldn't push it any higher than 6,000. What is the lowest? I mean, you could go as low as you want, but I would basically start at I would sort of start at maybe sort of 3,000 or so, and if it's going good and it's going smooth, if the stream is smooth, I would increase it until it stops being smooth, and then obviously make sure you decrease it a little bit to make it smooth. But if it's choppy, I would just keep decreasing it in sort of 500 or 100 sort of increments. So I would probably sort of set 3,000 as the baseline. Twitch on their website do have a page about it, showing recommended bandwidth, recommended bit rates. I'll see if I can find it. Twitch recommended bit rate. This is why I'm using display capture, in case I needed to go on Chrome. Come on, load. So yeah, they do. Obviously, this is for the NVIDIA NVENC encoder and the X264 specs, but basically, bitrate is what you're looking at here. Sort of their recommended ones. I mean, most of us, we're streaming at 720p, 30 FPS or 60 FPS. So their recommended is about 4,500 for 60 frames a second or 3,000 for 30 frames a second. Ben and Joe, they stream at 30 FPS. I stream at 60. I think Sam streams at 60 as well. I mean, for this this little stream I'm doing at 1080p, but that's for clarity of the screen. For games, I tend to I prefer doing 720, so it's less for my laptop to handle while also playing games. But yeah, so I'd sort of start off at 3,000 kilobits a second on the bitrate bit, and then push it up or down as needed. The bitrate is mainly an internet thing, rather than performance. like it's mainly internet, the bitrate there, but obviously it could potentially be affected by a thing. But yeah, there's also the X264 encoder. This is the default. Like this is the default. This is the software CPU encoder. Again, rate control also I leave that as default. And I think 2500 is the default it gives you. But yeah, to start with, I would bump that up to 3000. And on these presets, I would leave it on the default very fast. If you absolutely need to, like if it's struggling to encode it, I would then set it to super fast or ultra fast, but you will lose a bit of quality. And then the slower it goes, the worse performance the stream will have. And I don't know what these do, but if you leave them on none, they're generally fine. But yeah, as to whether to use X264 or whichever hardware encoder you have, it depends on your graphics card, depends on your computer, and sometimes I guess it could depend on the game, so that's just the kind of thing where you have to, yeah, you'll know what it is when you open OBS, it'll show you. But to get all these options, you do want to set output mode to advanced, because when it's simple, you don't get nearly as many options. So I personally, to get more control, do this. And if any of you are setting up streams at any point and you need help, just obviously reach out to me on Discord or Facebook or whatever. But that's for streaming. If you're using OBS to record, either at the same time as streaming or just recording stuff outside of streaming, then obviously this is the tab for you. Main things here to look at is recording format. I think by default it is now MKV. The default used to be FLV, but I think MKV is now the default. MP4 is obviously a format not a lot of people will use. This is what I normally used to have my recording format set to, but apparently it is good to use MKV instead of MP4 because basically if your computer crashes or blue screens or something while you're streaming, you won't lose the entire stream recording. You'll be able to keep what you've recorded so far. But it's up to you whether you want to use MKV or MP4. If you use MKV, you will have to do a thing called remuxing after you stream if you want to use the recording on like if you want to edit the recording. But if you want to like upload it straight to YouTube, you can just upload it as an MKV to YouTube. And encoder, you can either set the encoder settings again for recording, or you can just set it to use the stream encoder. That's what I do, it's easier. Audio, basically just, you can record, basically you can have multiple audio tracks when you're recording in OBS. And you can just set the bit rates, not too much. And replay buffer is basically, to my knowledge, is the kind of thing where you can like save like instant replays of like when you're streaming. I guess a bit like the capture function on the Switch. I've never really used it, but some people use it. Audio is mostly self-explanatory. Basically, you can set your sort of channels number. You basically set your desktop audio, which is any sound coming out of the computer, like your game audio or like alerts, stuff like that. Discord also. And then you got your mic / auxiliary audio. I have a few mics on here for various things, but obviously you just set which one's your mic, which one's your speakers. Obviously you can set default, but I would set it like, I would sort of set specifically which one it is, and you can have more than one, like mic and stuff. These meters, that's just for how it displays down here. And then there's just hotkeys. You have two mics on OBS, one works, one doesn't. Yeah, some softwares do just install random mics. Like on here I've got Steam streaming microphone for Steam Link, which basically that's how Steam like gets the audio over, I think, to like your phone when you do Steam Link. And Womic is like a thing I use for using my phone as a microphone. But yeah, audio is fairly self-explanatory. You don't really need to mess around with many of the things here other than setting up your speaker and mic. Now video, basically where's your sort of video resolution settings. Canvas resolution is basically this. It's where you stick all your stuff on. I can't change scenes right now. Or can I? I can change with my phone. But yeah, like canvas is just this. Ow. Why ow? Oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't realise. I've moved desktop audio down. Sorry. I'm used to desktop audio being already where I need it. Sorry about that. But yeah, canvas resolution is like this part where you're setting up your stuff. And then output resolution is what you're sending to Twitch. So if you want to stream at 1080p to Twitch, then you can. I stream at 720p though. And downscale filter, basically this is just how it scales it. Basically, the further down this list, the like slower, like the higher impact it is on performance. So I leave it on bilinear. And then you got your frame rate. Basically, I would pick 30 or 60. I stream at 60 because most games I stream are 60 frames a second games. But obviously if you're using a capture card, some capture cards, like I think Joe's capture card only does 1080p at 30 fps, but it does do 720p at 60 fps. I think Ben's does 1080p at 60 fps. But yeah, you basically set whether you want your stream to be 30 or 60 fps. If I streamed a 30 fps game, I would stream at 30 fps so that I'm not wasting bitrate on higher frame rates that aren't needed. But yeah, that's basically it. Basically, important bits here are the output resolution and your FPS here. Hotkeys, if you want to set up some hotkeys to do stuff with the keyboard, you can do that. I don't really use many hotkeys. And then we've got a few advanced things. Process priority is basically the same thing as what happens if you open Task Manager and then wait for it to load because it's really slow, and then go to the Details tab and wait for that to load because it's also really slow. And then you like right click on a thing. Where's OBS? Like you right click on a thing and do set priority. I mean, that's a bit of a computer nerdy thing there, but I just leave it at normal because if you set it to high priority it might interfere with how well a game works. Renderer, I mean I only have one option there. That's probably fine where leaving it. Like these settings are pretty much fine if you leave them at default. This is basically just this basically is just how the file is formatted. By default it basically just says like the year, month, day and time it was recorded. This option here, if you remember when I said in output in the recording settings, if you want to use an MKV file in a video editor, then you need to do what's called remuxing. You can set OBS to automatically do that when you finish streaming or recording. I'm actually going to turn that off because I don't really need that, because you can upload MKVs straight to YouTube. But of course, if you want MP4s, you can set your recording format to MP4. Stream delay, I think that basically just enforces like a delay, which I assume is good for competitive stuff where you don't want people to screen watch on your stream. Automatically reconnect bit here. I can't remember if this is enabled by default, but if it's not, I would enable it because it basically just means if it disconnects, it'll try and reconnect by itself. Ooh. Leave that at whatever the default was. And then here we got some network stuff I don't fully understand, but this bit here, dynamically change bitrate to manage congestion. Basically, you can enable that and it basically tries to change the bitrate down if it's struggling in terms of like network stuff. So try enabling that if you want. It's not enabled by default. I haven't enabled it until today's stream, so I have no idea how well it works or not. But I'd give it a try just in case. But that's the settings menu. So obviously outside of the settings you kind of need to add stuff to OBS so you can stream. So I'm just going to open something quickly. We'll open we'll open Sonic 3 Air, which I'm just going to mute the desktop audio actually. Going to open Sonic 3 Air. We'll go through like doing new scenes. So obviously down here, obviously, and with OBS you can also change the layout of everything. You can like dock and undock stuff. Drake Lost Artwork looks very Fire Emblem Awakening style. Uh-oh. That's, to be fair, Ben, it does... Oh, how do I minimize this? Actually, if I window it and then I can minimize it. Yeah, like, it's the plagiarism. Because this artwork is from like one of the Fire Emblem crossovers. Like, you got Tiki, you got Chrom, you got a couple of the Fire Emblem Heroes characters. So yeah, but anyways, so it's not plagiarism, it's a crossover. But anyways, we want to set up a new scene. Ooh, don't we? So obviously you got the scenes bit here. This is where the default location is. You can hit that little plus bit. You can add a scene. I'm just going to call it test. And then obviously you need to have things in your scene. So say if you've got a game open on PC, like this. I'm just going to move that over to my other monitor so it's out of the way. When you're doing games, the first thing you want to try is game capture, because that basically gets the best performance. Now you can have it set to just do anything that's in full screen, but for control I would do specific window and then you find whatever you want to be recording, and it should pick it up. Don't know what, oh yeah. And if you don't want your mouse cursor, then you should oh dear, I crashed Sonic 3. Oh well. But yeah, you can, you know what, I'll open Sonic 3 again, or the fan game remake of Sonic 3. Yeah, by default it does have capture cursor turned on. I mean, unless you really want people to see your mouse, I would turn it off. Hey, it's picked it up again. I'm just going to go and once again window it, bring it over here. But yeah, and if you want to also, you can also capture third-party overlays like Steam if you want to. I usually don't. But once you've got a source, you can then basically move it around. I'm just gonna go in the options. Oh, there's no options for like screen size. There we go. But yeah, you can use obviously controls here to make it fit your OBS canvas. But what you can do, you can right click. Obviously, easy way just to get something to fill the screen. You can right click, go to transform, and fit to screen. And obviously a lot of us stream with webcams, so one way you can do it is by going to, in your scene, going to add a video capture device and add the webcam there. But what I've done on mine, this is a tip I picked up from a YouTube video, I have an entire scene that's my webcam. I have a few filters on it as well, because you can basically add stuff. I have a cropping on it, otherwise I'm like really tiny in the frame. And I have some color correction. Render delay will be for when I'm using capture card stuff. But yeah, I have an entire scene that's set up for my webcam, which basically means if I wanted to put like a, that's my phone. If I wanted to put like a border or overlay or something, or just any like filters on this, I can do it all in this one scene. Like say if I wanted just to put some random text on here, and then like, hey, this is some fun text. like if I wanted to like have that always on my webcam in every scene, that now does mean in my game scene and in my console stream scene, it is there. Okay, my console stream scene, it is kind of it is mirrored on some bits, but if I move it over to top left, it is not mirrored. But yeah, so if you do that, like basically your webcam settings for every scene, if you have multiple scenes, can be the same, which basically means to add that, instead of going through video capture device, you can add it as a scene. You can just add any scene to your thing and move it around and put it where you want. Obviously I should probably show how to actually add the webcam itself. You just go to video capture device, and mine's called easy camera. It's probably not going to work here because I've already got it there, but yeah, if you go to video capture device and it should show up your webcam, you can configure the video and stuff. As if I go to the webcam scene, you got various configuration things, device settings. Mine has a flicker thing for 1560 Hertz. You can set your resolution FPS, either have it as the device default or just set it manually, which is what I've done. And yeah, video capture device is also how you use capture cards. If I go on my console stream bit, I have one called PVR, because my one is called HD PVR capture device, but obviously that has its own unique settings. But yeah, using scenes within scenes is quite useful. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could add in this as a scene as well. If I really wanted to. Don't know if that's added in the music. It has added in the music. Obviously, I've got desktop audio muted anyway, so it's fine. But yeah, being able to add scenes within scenes is quite a handy thing. I've only used it for the webcam myself, but yeah. That's a lot of the basics. And one thing, obviously you might have seen the other week when someone followed me on, like last week on my Explorers of Sky stream, I had that alert. If I go onto game, I have an alert somewhere. Yeah, alert. I'm using Streamlabs for my alerts because I've been using Streamlabs for quite a long time for my alerts. I think back when they were called Twitch alerts. Obviously you can use something like Stream Elements or something if you want to. I'm basically sticking with Streamlabs at the moment because it's what I've already got my stuff set up as. But usually if you're using standard OBS like this, you generally will add it as a browser source. So you go to the plus thing, add a browser, and then you can basically just put like any website you want on there. So I could, if I really wanted to for some reason, I could like put my portfolio on there. If I go on this website, I know I won't sue me. But basically, yeah, you can add a random website on. That's generally how you do alerts. Yeah, if I remove that. It's like on mine. If I go over to Streamlabs, because this is what I use. Obviously, if you wanted to use Stream Elements or anything else like that, feel free, because I know Rin has Stream Elements chat bot like alert type stuff on hers. Stream Elements is a newer thing than Streamlabs, and I've heard it does have a lot of benefits over Streamlabs, but Streamlabs is just what I'm used to. So this is going to be a bit more oriented to what I'm using, but yeah, with alert stuff like that, like this is like where my like follower alerts and stuff happen. You'll probably change to what Streamlabs have once you sort things out. Yeah, I mean, again, like you can use whichever. It depends. Like, you can use whichever you want. I basically only use Streamlabs because I'm used to it. You want to delete alerts? Yeah, because I think Stream Elements might have alerts, but I'm not sure because I've not looked into it myself. But I think they might have them. But where's Chrome? But yeah, on Streamlabs' website is a little bit of a mess. But for the alerts thing, you can go to Alert Box. This is like the main thing they used to do before they were called Streamlabs. So you can have some of these sort of things up here, these designs, but I do mine manually. So what I've got here is if I do test follow, it should probably show up on, because I do have the alert box set up on Streamlabs OBS for this little stream. So yeah, so basically on this, it has all sorts of settings like delays and like the layout of it. I could set it to different layouts, but it has various sections for different types of alerts like follows, subscriptions, donations, etc. One thing Streamlabs does let you do, which I assume Stream Elements does a similar thing, is you can upload like pictures and GIFs to be and like to show up, pardon me, when an alert happens, and you can upload a sound effect as well. A couple of mine are still the default sound, and some of them are default GIFs, which I need to change. I will not put an instant raw GIF on mine. But yeah, some of these are still default, but most of them are, and they're Splatoon themed because I made these quite a few years ago. And if you know HTML and CSS, you can do some custom HTML and CSS, but I can't bother with that. Trying to open font settings, but it's not letting me. We'll forget about opening font. We'll forget about the font settings. Oh no, it's opened. You can change the font. Yay. But another thing that both me and Ben do. Wow, it's skipped loads of frames. But another thing me and Ben do, if you go to all widgets, one thing me and Ben do is we have a chat box on our stream. Perhaps I should add it on Streamlabs OBS. Blah, 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 blah. Cameo. But yeah, one thing me and Ben do is we have a chat box on our streams. We use Streamlabs for that. Again, I'm guessing other services like Stream Elements have them as well. As the BBC would say, other services are available. That move was Pog. What move was Pog? But yeah, you can add. And basically with Streamlabs, if you're using regular OBS rather than Streamlabs OBS, because Streamlabs OBS is made so that you can specifically get these just by adding them as sources, but in OBS, on all these things like the alert box or this, I should not have hidden that. I should not have unhidden that, because that's supposed to be confidential. 5 unread notifications. I was just telling you about skipped frames. It's going to take ages to reload this, isn't it? Lovely. Basically, all these widgets, they will give you a widget URL at the top. The alert box does this as well, this does it. And you basically just copy that. Then in OBS, that's when you add it as a browser source. And then in OBS you can change the size of it. Because if you change the size of it by using the controls on the editor, like on the canvas, it will stretch it rather than just making it bigger. So for a chat box, or you would want to change the size here. Obviously I don't really need to have another chat box on here because I already have a chat box, so we're going to get rid of that. Is there anything else that anyone would want me to go through that I use? Because obviously I have some more like advanced stuff like plugins and other software that I use on my streams, like that I've started using recently. Is there anything else anyone wants to know about, or are we good to finish up here? How do you make your laptop good? You unfortunately buy a better one. I'll cover the things you're unsure about. Yeah? Yeah? Bake it like the potato it is. Yeah. Also, I know I brought attention to this on stream, but I make Ruby Alpha Sapphire poster. Groudon and Kyogre. It's a toaster, actually. But yeah, I love this poster. It's so good. I actually quite like having this as a background for my streams because I've got like slightly varied things, because I got like Pokemon poster, then like the Battle Revolution poster that came with my Pokemon Diamond copy, something my sister drew for me like in 2006, and then Phantom of the Opera poster because I have been involved in musical theatre in my life. Then it can run Skyrim. I mean, the PS3 and 360 ran Skyrim, so room tour. That would be something that would be easier to do from my phone. I don't really want to carry my laptop around. Maybe one day I'll do a room tour. Maybe on Discord rather than Twitch. But yeah, if that's covered everyone's like questions and all that, do a face reveal. But yeah, if that's covered everyone's like stuff that they wanted to learn about, then I'll probably finish up this stream. Obviously, if there's anything about like the advanced stuff that anyone wants to know about, I have a thing called Touch Portal, which is like a stream deck. Basically, I can control certain bits of OBS with my phone. I've only started using that this week. I set it up during the week. One thing I can do with it is move my camera around if I tap buttons. Like, moving the camera around is done with a filter, but that's something that's a bit more, a bit more complex. But it also allows me to toggle scenes because I have it set up. But yeah, I sort of decided that it would be good to especially do the webcam thing, because then it means for console streams I can faces so moving, terrible pun. It is like a stream deck. It's like a mobile app version of a stream deck. The free version is limited, but it is what it is. And I have it set up on like a Switch stand currently on my second table. But with my console streams, I now have, as well as the four corners, I also have the spot it's in on the for the Pokemon streams, and because I'm looking at my TV, which is over there, I have it flipped on this side of the canvas. But yeah, if you ever want me to go over that kind of stuff, I think it'd be easier to do like on Discord or something later on. And because I know people wanted to play Runbow tonight as well, so yeah, I think we'll finish up then if we're all good. And yeah, I'll speak to you guys later on Runbow if we're playing. If my throat, because my throat's a little bit sore from talking for like 3 hours and a bit. So yeah, I'll finish this stream up. Yeah, no problem at all. I enjoy this kind of stuff, so I don't mind helping people with it. I was about to I was about to click stuff on OBS. Where's the right? And there's the end stream.